thank you very much for your warm welcome, and I'm delighted to be back in the Twin Cities and very pleased to be with friends and supporters of the Humphrey School of Public Affairs, and what is one of my favorite institutions, led now by one of my favorite people, Eric Schwartz. Now, I wasn't asked to come up here to do this, but I would like very much to express my great admiration for Eric and everything that he did as a public servant and somebody dedicated to human rights and refugees, and somebody who knows what is important about this country and is doing such an incredible job in leading this great school. So Eric, thank you so much. This evening I do have a very special assignment, and that is to introduce you to one of America's finest diplomats, who's also a very dear friend. As you may know, American embassies around the world typically have a hallway decorated with the photographs of all the former ambassadors. So when I went on trips as Secretary of State, I would run into Tom Pickering's picture everywhere. Russia, India, Israel, El Salvador, Jordan, Nigeria. And this was after 4 years of seeing his charismatic face staring back at me from the wall of the American mission at the United Nations. And as many people reminded me when I took that job, you're no Tom Pickering. Few people have served our country better or in more capacities than Tom Pickering. And when I became Secretary of State, there were some questions as to whether or not, as the first woman, I would be comfortable having, quote, strong men in my orbit. I put those questions to rest by bringing Ambassador Pickering, who was a legend in the Foreign Service, back from retirement. The position to which he was then appointed is known as the Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs. That title in no way adequately sums up the size of his portfolio or the breadth of his responsibilities, which encompassed every region of the world and every conceivable diplomatic challenge. It was a daunting job, but Ambassador Pickering was indomitable. His languages include French, Spanish, Arabic, Hebrew, and Swahili, which he speaks fluently. And yet, despite his extraordinary credentials, Tom Pickering was as unpretentious and affable as they come. It's fair to say that I looked up to him, in part because he's 1.5 feet taller than I am, but mostly because of the depth of his expertise. He was a tremendous resource as we worked to advance the cause of peace between Israel and the Palestinians, because he had led the efforts years before which resulted in the Camp David peace treaty between Egypt and Israel and the peace treaty between Jordan and Israel. During our time together at the State Department, one of the most important assignments he took on was leading the efforts to turn around the situation in Colombia, a country that in the late 1990s was falling apart in front of our eyes. Thanks to his leadership, we were able to bring all the relevant players within the United States government onto the same page and formulate Plan Colombia, a comprehensive counter-narcotics and counterinsurgency effort that turned the tide and led to a much improved situation on the ground. Plan Colombia stands out as a model for how to marshal the resources of the United States government around a foreign policy objective that can be sustained across administrations of different parties. Earlier this year, President Obama hosted Colombian President Juan Manuel Santos at the White House to mark the 15th year of Plan Colombia and to introduce its successor, Peace Colombia. And I think it's fair to say that there would be no Peace Colombia without Tom Pickering. But he made his mark not only there, but in the countless places around the world where he worked to advance peace, justice, and American leadership. He has continued to serve as an exemplar of professional diplomacy, co-chairing an accountability review board with Admiral Mullen that rigorously examined the events surrounding the attack on the U.S. consulate in Benghazi. And he has been a forceful and thoughtful voice in the debate over the Iran nuclear agreement. In the years since his retirement, one important way his legacy has been upheld is through the Thomas R. Pickering Fellowship Program, which provides support for students preparing for a career in the Foreign Service. And so tonight, it is so fitting that the Humphrey School is announcing that it is welcoming a Pickering Fellow, Marina Kelly, as an incoming student into its new Masters of Human Rights degree program. I cannot think of a better tribute to Ambassador Pickering, nor can I think of someone more deserving of the 2016 Humphrey Public Leadership Award. And with all our distinguished honorees tonight, he has made the world a better place, and it is now my honor to introduce him to all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming the Honorable Thomas R. Pickering.